everyone, once again welcome to GYANKALYAN. I am Gourisikha Borgohain, and in GYANKALYAN I have been dealing with General English for the students of class 11 and Alternative English for the students of class 12. And in this video I have taken up a chapter for the students of General English class 11. The name of the chapter is Albert Einstein at School, and I have divided the chapter into two parts. In this video I'll be talking about the very first part of the chapter, and the remaining part I will discuss it in the next video. So let's get started with the chapter now.
Albert Einstein at School, written by Patrick Pringle. So everyone knows who is Albert Einstein, right? He is regarded as the greatest physicist since Newton. And he was a German who also developed the theory of relativity. Albert Einstein is regarded as the greatest physicist since Newton. In the following extract from the young Einstein, the well-known biographer Patrick Pringle describes the circumstances which led to Albert Einstein's expulsion from a German school. So this chapter is basically an extract from the biography of Albert Einstein, named The Young Einstein, written by Patrick Pringle. In what year, Einstein asked the history teacher, did the Prussians defeat the French at Waterloo? I don't know, sir. Why don't you know? You have been told it often enough. I must have forgotten. Did you ever try to learn? Asked Mr. Brown. No, sir, Albert replied with his usual unthinking honesty. Why not? I can't see any point in learning dates. One can always look them up in a book. Mr. Brown was speechless for a few moments. You amaze me, Einstein, he said at last. Don't you realize that one can always look most things up in books? That applies to all the facts you learn at school. Yes, sir. So, we can see the chapter opens with the image of a history teacher questioning Einstein about the year in which the Prussians defeated the French at Waterloo. Then Einstein answers back that he don't know the answer. Einstein jetia Mr. Brown koi je he never bothers to learn the dates, then Einstein justifies that he don't find it important to digest dates because one can always look them up in books whenever needed. Aru hetu huni Mr. Brown became dumbstruck for a while. Tarpisot Mr. Brown replies that teneke hole sob bostu kitab meliye sabo pari. Aru তেনেকে হলে স্কুলত পঢ়ুৱাও একো লাভ নাথাকিব আৰু আইনষ্টাইনে তেতিয়া তেওঁৰ কথাত এগ্ৰিও কৰে আৰু কয় yes sir. Then I suppose you don't see any point in learning facts. Frankly, sir, I don't, said Albert. Then you don't believe in education at all? Oh, yes, sir, I do. I don't think learning facts is education. In that case, said the history teacher, with heavy sarcasm, perhaps you will be so kind as to tell the class the Einstein theory of education. Albert flushed. I think it's not facts that matter, but ideas, he said. I don't see the point in learning the dates of battles or even which of the armies killed more men. I would be more interested in learning why those soldiers were trying to kill each other. That's enough. Mr. Brown's eyes were cold and cruel. We don't want a lecture from you, Einstein. You will stay in for an extra period today, although I don't imagine it will do you much good. It won't do the school any good either. You are a disgrace. I don't know why you continue to come. It's not my wish, sir, Albert pointed out. Then you are an ungrateful boy and ought to be ashamed of yourself. I suggest you ask your father to take you away. The teacher then asks Einstein to explain the whole class about the elaborate version of ideal education. Albert then sets forth to explain his idea that it is useless to acquire knowledge on dates of battles and number of men that were compromised, and according to him, it is not important to read and analyze the reasons that were responsible for the battle between the two armies. And Mr. Brown মিষ্টাৰ ব্ৰাউনে আইনষ্টাইনৰ কথা শুনি খং কৰে আৰু তাক এক্সট্ৰা ক্লাছৰ কাৰণে থাকিবলৈ কয়। Then the teacher also calls him disgrace and finds displeasure of having him around. The teacher also calls him an ungrateful boy and suggests that his father should take him away from school. Albert felt miserable when he left school that afternoon. Not that it had been a bad day, most days were bad now anyway, but because he had to go back to the hateful place the next morning. He only wished his father would take him away, but there was no point in even asking. He knew that what the answer would be. He would have to stay until he had taken his diploma. Going back to his lodging did not cheer him up. His father had so little money to spare that Albert had been found a room in one of the poorest quarters in Munich. He did not mind the bad food and lack of comfort or even the dirt and squalor, but he hated the atmosphere of slum violence. His landlady beat her children regularly, and every Saturday her husband came drunk and beat her. So Albert felt very sad that afternoon when he left school. He was staying in a room in one of the poorest quarters in Munich, as his father had a very little money to spare. He never minded the bad food and lack of comfort there, or even the dirt and the squalor, but he was disturbed by the atmosphere of the slum violence. Even the landlady's family was a violent one. She used to beat her children frequently, and on the other hand, her husband beat her every Saturday when he comes home drunk. But at least you have a room of your own, which is more than I can see, said Yuri when he called round in the evening. At least you live among civilized human beings, even if they are all poor students, said Albert. They are not all civilized, Yuri replied. Did you not hear that one of them was killed last week in a duel? And what happens to the one who killed him? Nothing, of course. He is even proud of it. His only worry is that the authorities have told him not to fight any more duels. And he is upset about this because he hasn't a single scar on his face to wear for the rest of his life as a badge of honor. Ugh, exclaimed Albert. And these are the students. Well, you will be a student one day, said Yuri. I doubt it, said Albert glumly. So what happens? Now we come across one of Albert's friend, Yuri, and reminds Albert that he should consider himself lucky about the fact that he has his own room to live, even though the neighbors are not liked by him. And Albert then reminds Yuri that Yuri is more fortunate to live among poor students, at least they are all civilized and non-violent. Yuri then corrects him and narrates an incident of last week where one was killed in a fight. And the one who killed him only regret of not having a scar as a symbol of bravery. Then Albert then grieved at the state of students pursuing diploma. And Yuri manages to give some hope to Albert by saying that he will be a student too, and to which Albert expresses his doubtfulness. I don't think I will ever pass the exams for the school diploma, he told his cousin Elsa the same next time she came to Munich. Normally she lived in Berlin, where her father had a business. I'm sure you could learn enough to pass the exams, Albert, if you tried, she said. I know lots of boys who are much more stupid than you are who get through. They say you don't have to know anything, you don't have to understand what you are taught, just be able to repeat it in the exams. Albert then talks about his cousin Elsa, who had come to visit Einstein in Munich. Elsa tried to console Einstein and asked him to learn just enough to pass the exams. But according to Einstein, learning things by heart is not his best suit. That's the whole trouble, said Albert. I am no good at learning things by heart. You don't need to be good at it. Anyone can learn like a parrot. You just don't try. And yet I always see you with a book under your arm, added Elsa. What is the one you are reading? A book on geology. Geology, rocks and things. Do you learn that? No, we have hardly any science at school. Then why are you studying it? Because I like it. Isn't that a good enough reason? Elsa sighed. You are right, of course, Albert, she said, but it won't help you with your diploma. So Elsa mentions that he always carries a book of geology, and then Albert answers her back that it is a book of geology which is not taught in school. He also laments that they hardly taught science in school, and Albert expresses his interest in studying science and considers it a reason good enough to read it. Elsa also understands his reason but tells him that it is not going to help him in passing his diploma. Apart from books on science, his only comfort was music, and he played his violin regularly until his landlady asked him to stop. That wailing gets on my nerves, she said. There is enough noise in this house, with all the kids howling. Albert was tempted to point out that most of the time it was she who made them howl, but he decided it was better to say nothing. So here we know how much Einstein was fond of reading science books, and he also played violin, but his landlady asked him to stop it. I must get away from here, he told Yuri, after 6 months alone in Munich. It is absurd that I should go on like this. In the end, it will turn out I have been wasting my father's money and everyone's time. It will be better for all if I stop now. And then, what will you do? Yuri asked. I don't know. If I go to Milan, I am afraid my father will send me back, unless... His eyes gleamed with a sudden idea. Yuri, do you know any friendly doctors? I know a lot of medical students and some of them are friendly, said Yuri. Doctor? No, I have never had enough money to go to one. Why? So after 6 months, Albert becomes very frustrated and talks to Yuri and expresses him that he feels it's high time he moves away from here. They discuss this for a while and suddenly an idea occurs to him. He asks Yuri if he knew any doctors, and Yuri replied that he had a lot of friends from the medical field. Suppose, said Albert, that I had a nervous breakdown. Suppose a doctor would say it's bad for me to go to school and I need to get right away from it. So Albert's idea was that if he had a nervous breakdown, if the doctor advised him that school is bad for him and he needs to stay away from it. So this was the idea of Albert to get away from his school. So I will stop here for today, and in the next video we will discuss the remaining part of the chapter. Thank you for watching.